Hello everyone, welcome to Feminine and Purposeful with Patience, God's Will. If you're seeing my face for the first time, thank you for stopping by. And to my old subscribers, thank you so much for always coming back.
You're meant to shine.
On today's edition of the Feminine and Purposeful, I like to talk about mental health. Mental health is a topic we cannot even stop talking about. No, we cannot. We cannot stop talking about mental health because we have more and more people going down with mental illness. We have more and more people. We have women coming up to say, "Oh, I had mental case. I had mental." So what is this mental health? What is this mental health? It's a series we're starting from today, and this is episode 1. And on today's show, we're going to look closely at mental health. So I have a definition here by World Health Organization. World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stress of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So we're going to just look closely at just this definition. That is all we're going to be doing on today's edition. What is mental health? Because we've had so many people talk about mental health, but really, what is this mental health? There are key words in this definition. The first one is that is a state of well-being. Is a state of well-being. We all know that when you talk about well-being, you're talking about being well. You are talking about being okay. So, because this channel is feminine and purposeful, we are going to be focusing on women's mental health. So, everything we're going to be talking about today, we are going to be focusing on women's mental health, because we've had more and more women come down with mental issues. That some of them, it leads to their death. Some of them, it leads to divorce. Some of them, it leads to, being hospitalized in a mental hospital. So we want to take the issue of mental health very seriously. So what is mental health? We say it is well-being. It is a state of well-being. So how many women would actually say they are okay? If you're listening to me and you're a woman, would you say your mental well-being is okay? Will you say you are okay mentally? Will you say you are well? Will you say you're well? Then the second thing we're looking at today is we say in which every individual realizes his or her own potential. So mental health is that space where you realize your potential. You realize that whatever situation you're in is not capable of stopping you from realizing your potential. Whether you are married or single, whether you're a young girl, whether you are the president of a nation, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you're a politician, whoever you are, you're a preacher, whoever you are. What are your potentials? Are you in that space where you realize that these are my potentials? These are things I can do. Then the third thing we're looking at here is can cope with the normal stress of life. When we talk about mental health, we're talking about that space where you can cope with the mental stress of life. Most times people react in certain ways because they cannot cope with stress. So it means if you are in that place where you cannot cope with any form of stress, any little thing, there's an outburst. Any little situation that comes your way, you react. It means that you need to pay more attention, a close attention to your mental health. It means that your ability to cope with stress is minimal. So it means your mental health is under question mark. It's something you need to pay close attention to. Then the next thing we're looking at is can work productively. Can work productively. So if you're dealing with mental stress, if you're dealing with a mental issue, if your mental health is not intact or your mental health is questionable or is not okay, then you cannot work productively. It means that if you're mentally not balanced, you cannot work productively. The reason why when you look at it, the moment a woman gets into that space, I'm saying all of this because I've been there. I've been there. And the funny thing is that mental health is something we don't take seriously, especially in this part of the world. We don't take mental health seriously. In the place where I'm coming from, in the north, especially, going to see a therapist is not something that you would want to talk about. You want to do. Maybe as a woman, you say to your husband, "Oh, I want to see a therapist."
For what? A therapist for what?
You want to go and disclose your problem. You want to go and share your problem with the world, especially if it's a marital problem. So we are not productive because mentally we are not okay. Because once you're mentally okay, you are productive. So having a good mental health is being in that space where you can work productively. Then the next word there is fruitfully. So once you can work productively, it will be fruitful. It will be fruitful because everyone will see the fruit of your labor. Everyone will see the results of your being productive or the result of your hard work. The last phrase or the last part of that definition is that, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Once you're mentally okay, you would go through all these things I have mentioned before now, and then you'll be able to make a contribution to your community. So when you're mentally okay, it means you are in that space where you can contribute something to your community, where your impact can be felt in your community. As a woman, what are you contributing to your community? So it simply means if you're not making any positive impact to your community, your mental health is questionable. So I'm going to quickly run through these things that I have picked out from this mental health definition by World Health Organization. Number one is a state of well-being. Number two, you must realize your potential. Number three, you should be able to cope with normal stress of life. Cope with normal stress of life. We see people react in certain ways. I was told recently when the nation went into that when the nation went into this cashless economy, issue. I was told of a man. I don't know which state particularly, but I was told of a man who climbed a pole wire and then let himself down and died instantly. That is a person whose mental health is not okay, whose mental health is questionable because he could not cope with the normal stress of life. And we saw within this period that so many people could not cope with stress. We saw men, or we saw women, we saw people who went into the bank and undressed, removed their clothes and began to scream or shout. So you must be in a state of well-being. You must realize your potential. You must cope with normal stress of life. You can work productively and you should be fruitful. And then lastly, you should be able to make a contribution to your community. I hope you've learned something about mental health. This is just me trying to explain what mental health is. When we talk about mental health, we're talking about the way an average person should be, should reason, should have resolved. That is mental health. Now, subsequently, we're going to look at mental illness. We're going to look at mental illness closely. What is mental illness? And then we will look at the different types of mental illnesses that people go through. We see these things every day, but we are going to look at them one after the other and see how it relates to us or in any way that we suffer any of these illnesses. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this very first series on mental health. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel, give it a massive thumbs up, comment, share this video, and I will see you again in my next. Bye.